The story begins with an ordinary boy named Dave, whom no one at school really knew, just like you. He had just two friends, Todd and Marty. No girl ever paid any attention to Dave, just like you, although he had a secret crush on a girl named Katie. No, that's not her. There she is. Dave also had a passion for comic books. One day, while chatting with his friends, he wondered why nobody had ever attempted to become a real-life superhero. Marty remarked that to do so, you'd either need superpowers or an obscene amount of money. Just then, a lad named Chris strolled into the cafe. Chris was the spoilt son of a Mafia boss named Frank. Dave noticed that, despite his wealth, Chris always seemed to be on his own. So, Dave decided to approach him and try to make friends. However, Chris's bodyguard reprimanded Dave and told him to clear off. Later, as Dave and his friends stepped outside, they were mugged by some thugs. Frustrated by the encounter and everything else, Dave resolved to take a stand against the wrongdoers. He bought a green diving suit online and strapped 2 sticks to his back. After that, he began training rigorously, determined to become a superhero and defend the helpless. Meanwhile, Mafia boss Frank and his gang were interrogating a man named Trey at their hideout. Frank had sent Trey to sell happy powder to a Russian gang, but Trey claimed that during the deal, a man dressed as Batman had suddenly attacked him and nicked all the powder. However, the Russian gang told Frank a different story. They accused Trey of keeping most of the powder for himself and only handing over a small portion, charging them a steep price for it. Frank didn't buy Trey's story, so he ordered one of his men, Joe, to kill him. We then meet a man named Damon, who used to be a police officer. At present, he's teaching his 11-year-old daughter, Mindy, self-defense. He even made her wear a bulletproof vest and shot at her, explaining the significance of protecting herself. Meanwhile, Dave was still training hard to become a superhero, although he was petrified of leaping from buildings. One day, he spotted the same blokes who had mugged him earlier, now attempting to nick a car. Summoning all his courage, Dave donned his suit and attacked them. But in the end, the muggers stabbed him and fled. Then, out of the blue, a car hit Dave and sped off. Fortunately, some passers-by rushed him to hospital in an ambulance where he was treated. A few days later, Joe informed Frank that a man named Trey had sold happy powder to the Russian gang again. Frank realized that the Russian gang had lied to him previously. Enraged, he ordered Joe to retrieve the powder. The next day, Joe captured the Russian boss, who confessed that Trey had continued selling powder to them. Joe then locked the Russian boss in a giant microwave and killed him by cooking him alive. On the other hand, after Dave's car accident, metal plates were inserted into his body, and due to nerve damage, his pain tolerance had significantly increased. When Dave returned to school, something completely unexpected happened. Katie suddenly began speaking to him and even asked him out on a date. Dave was stunned by this and immediately told his friends. Marty then explained that the entire school believed Dave was gay, which is why Katie had approached him. Dave was shocked, but chose to stay silent, wanting to get closer to Katie. At the same time, Dave was still working hard on his journey to becoming a superhero, and had adopted the name Kick-Ass. One night, while Dev was searching for a lost cat, he spotted 3 thugs beating up a man. Without hesitation, Dev jumped in and fought off the thugs, saving the man's life. His metal plates and his incredible pain tolerance came in handy during the fight. His earlier fight had gone viral on YouTube, as people had recorded the entire scene. Meanwhile, Demon and Mindy were watching the whole scene unfold. Mindy thought Kick-Ass had the potential to become a superhero, but Demon wasn't as thrilled about it. One day, while sitting in a restaurant, Katie mentioned that a bloke named Rasul had been harassing her for quite some time. Dave became angry and suggested that Katie ask Kick-Ass for help. Eventually, Katie agreed, and that night, Kick-Ass confronted Rasul and his gang. He warned Rasul to leave Katie alone, but instead, the gang beat him up. Just as things were looking bleak, Mindy, disguised as Hit Girl, arrived and saved Kick-Ass's life. She revealed that she too was a superhero, and shortly after, her father, Big Daddy, showed up. Together, the 3 of them fought the gang and managed to defeat them all. Afterward, Mindy stole all the gang's money and escaped with her father via the rooftop. Kick-Ass tried to follow, but he was too frightened of the heights. Later, Dave returned home crying, realizing that unlike Hit Girl and Big Daddy, he wasn't a true superhero. However, later that night, Hit Girl and Big Daddy visited him in his room. They praised his bravery and told him he had the potential to become a great superhero. Big Daddy told Dave that if he wanted to join their team, he would need to train intensely. He also gave Dave a tip. If he ever needed help, he could upload a specific type of photo online, and Big Daddy and Hit Girl would know it was a signal. After they left, Dave's determination to become a superhero was reignited, and he began training harder than ever. Meanwhile, Joe showed Frank a photo taken the day their happy powder was stolen. Joe explained that one of their men had taken the photo before he died. The photo showed Big Daddy's back, but since Joe and Frank only knew of one superhero, Kick-Ass, they assumed he was responsible. Elsewhere, Big Daddy and Hit Girl had kidnapped Frank's associate, Cody. They tortured him for information regarding Frank's happy powder operation, and after extracting what they needed, they killed him. We then see a police officer named Marcus searching Damon's house, where he found a stash of weapons. It's revealed that both Damon and Frank were once police officers, but later, Frank framed Damon in a false case, leading to his imprisonment. This caused Damon's wife to spiral into depression, eventually leading to her death. In secret, Damon began training to seek revenge on Frank. After being released from prison, he started training his daughter Mindy to be his partner in his quest for vengeance. Meanwhile, Frank encountered a man dressed in a kick-ass costume. Furious, Frank beat him to death, only to later realize that it wasn't the real kick-ass, leaving him in a state of confusion and rage. Meanwhile, Frank's son, Chris, was secretly listening to everything. After hearing the conversations, he came up with a new plan. Chris suggested that he would become a superhero like Kick-Ass, calling himself Red Mist. His plan was to catch one of Frank's men during a drug deal and turn him over to the police. By doing this, Chris hoped to gain Kick-Ass's trust and eventually join his team, with the ultimate goal of getting closer to Frank. Soon, Chris put his plan into action and gained media attention, just like Kick-Ass. After that, he reached out to Kick-Ass through his page, and a few days later, the two met. Red Mist told Kick-Ass that he wanted to join forces and help people together. Seeing Red Mist's flashy car, Kick-Ass was thrilled, and they both drove to one of Frank's warehouses. However, upon arriving, they found that the warehouse was on fire. They rushed inside, but found that everyone inside had already been killed. Red Mist grabbed a teddy bear from the scene and made it out just in time. Afterward, the two superheroes went their separate ways. Frank, who had been watching from a distance, grew worried about his son. Soon, Chris returned to the office and showed everyone the footage from the warehouse. It turned out that the teddy bear had a hidden camera in it, and the footage revealed that Big Daddy was the one who had killed all the men in the warehouse and set the fire. Frank then realized that their real enemy wasn't Kick-Ass, but Big Daddy. Frank ordered Chris to use Kick-Ass to set a trap for Big Daddy. Meanwhile, Dave had lost hope in becoming a superhero after the warehouse incident. However, one night, he saw that Red Mist had sent him a bunch of emails, pleading for help. Dave reconsidered and decided to put on his Kick-Ass suit one more time to meet with Red Mist. When they met, Red Mist told Kick-Ass that the deaths at the warehouse were being blamed on him, and now they had to catch the real criminals to prove their innocence. Red Mist said they needed Big Daddy's help to do that. Falling for Red Mist's words, Kick-Ass sent the special signal to call for Big Daddy's help. Soon, Big Daddy, Hit Girl, saw the signal and invited Dave to meet them at their hideout. Red Mist and Kick-Ass set off for the hideout, with Frank's men secretly following them. When they arrived, Big Daddy was suspicious of Red Mist, but still allowed both of them inside. Unfortunately, this turned out to be his biggest mistake. Suddenly, Red Mist shot Hit Girl. At the same moment, Frank's men stormed in and knocked out both Big Daddy and Kick-Ass. Meanwhile, word had spread on Kick-Ass's page that he was going to reveal his true identity, and everyone was watching intently. Just then, a live video began streaming, showing Big Daddy and Kick-Ass tied up and held captive by Frank's thugs. The goons beat them brutally, and then they doused Big Daddy with kerosene, preparing to burn him alive. At the last moment, Hit Girl regained consciousness. She had been wearing a bulletproof vest, which saved her life. She immediately cut the power to the hideout, plunging the place into darkness, and then, wearing her night vision goggles, launched an attack on all the goons. However, during the chaos, one of the thugs set Big Daddy on fire. Despite being engulfed in flames, Big Daddy kept instructing his daughter on how to fight the thugs. After defeating all the goons, Hit Girl put out the fire, but it was too late. Big Daddy's time had come, and he was dying. Hit Girl bid a tearful farewell to her father and later freed Kick-Ass. Afterward, Kick-Ass took her home to calm her down. The two then decided to avenge Damon's death. Mindy, disguised as a schoolgirl, infiltrated Frank's office. No one recognized her, so the goons let her in. But suddenly, Mindy pulled out a gun and shot one of the thugs in the mouth. From there, she went on a deadly spree, taking down each of the thugs one by one. Once her disguise was off, she donned her Hit Girl costume and made her way toward Frank's office. Along the way, she bravely fought off all the thugs in her path. However, by the time she reached Frank's office, her ammo had run out, and she was soon surrounded by thugs. Just when it seemed like she was about to meet her end, Kick-Ass arrived at the last second, wearing a jetpack equipped with 2 machine guns. Using the guns, he swiftly took out the remaining goons. Hearing the gunfire from their office, Frank and Chris assumed that their men had successfully killed Kick-Ass and Big Daddy, but to their shock, Kick-Ass and Hit Girl stormed into the office. A fierce battle ensued, with Frank fighting Hit Girl and Kick-Ass going up against Chris. Frank was incredibly strong and was on the verge of defeating Hit Girl. However, at the last moment, Kick-Ass fired a missile at Frank, sending him flying out the window, where he exploded in midair. Meanwhile, Chris grabbed a sword and charged toward them. But it was too late. Kick-Ass had already flown away with Hit Girl on his jetpack. After flying her to safety, Kick-Ass and Hit Girl shook hands, sealing their partnership. A few days later, we see that Damon's former police partner, Marcus, has taken on the responsibility of looking after Mindy. Meanwhile, Chris, now bent on revenge, is seen preparing a new villain suit, setting the stage for his vendetta against Kick-Ass and Hit Girl. That's it for today's video. Make sure to like and subscribe to watch more interesting recap videos. Thanks for watching.